I'm going to be talking to you about the market is the market. And really, our markets are driven by what happens in the world. World events have made development uncertain. World thinking has changed the way we behave. All of a sudden, people are saving. Credit is bad. And surprisingly, you can't spend your way out of a bad situation. A dollar that's saved won't be wasted. And when it's spent, if it's spent, quality and service is extremely valuable. The fundamental challenges to development this year are pretty much the same as what they were last year. Funding is still difficult to acquire. And for purchasers, there's still no compelling reason to buy. Really, the only change is that these difficulties have gone on for longer than expected. And there's a growing realisation that these difficulties will be here for some time into the future. The market is what it is. It's not greener somewhere else, it's actually brownish. And if you want to operate in it, you need to be grounded, you need to get back to basics, and you need to make decisions that are based on facts. Building for profit is about creating certainty in what is an uncertain thing. And I think you can create certainty by relying on your wisdom, your intelligence, and then leveraging off that with technology. Wisdom comes from our experience, and it's something that you get over years. It allows us to pick the shortest paths. It allows us to be entrepreneurial, and it also allows us to choose the right networks. It's something that you develop, but it's also something that you can plug into. Intelligence, and here I'm talking about intelligence from the market. It's gathered, it's measured, and it's researched. It's analysed and it's recorded. Intelligence is factual, it's logical, and allows us to make rational decisions. Technology provides leverage, allows us to leverage off our wisdom and off our intelligence. It allows huge amounts of information to be analysed, broken down, compiled and recompiled. And most importantly, it allows us to reassemble it in a complexity of ways. And all the time doing it extremely fast. And speed in development is something that's very important. If we can get into a project and out of a project quickly, it's a far more certain place. So today, I'm going to share with you some of Mitchell Brandtman's wisdom and some of its intelligence. And I'm also going to demonstrate how we leverage off technology to make those things work for us. Now, intelligence, real project costs. Now, I mentioned what I'm going to do here is look at apartments that are under 10 levels in detail, and then we'll just provide some summary information about some of the other residential products. But again, just remember, if you want to get that detail for the people that are interested in it, just email us, and we'll be able to provide that to you. So looking at apartments, again, these jobs are all within the last 6 months. So they're all but one is under construction now. The average, well, let me explain and set this up first of all. The left-hand side is quantity surveying speak. It's how we analyse every project. So we put a grid over a project and we analyse the roof cost on every job, the external walls, and we compare it out. This is the detail that is actually what drives a cost strategy. Very often we only talk about bottom line costs, and they can be misleading. And the reason that they can be misleading is this project, this selection here is showing an average of $1,800 a square metre, but there's a range. And the two projects on the left-hand side, 1 and 2, are higher one-bedroom apartments. Now, this is something that happens in the marketplace. Hey, if I'm building one-bedders, does that mean my costs are going to go through the roof? Yes, they will increase, but it's not double. It's not $1,000 a square metre. It's more like $200 to $300 a square metre. In these projects that we're looking at here, the ones that are higher content of one-bedders are in the 70% sort of range, one-beds. The others are all about 50-50, one-bed and two-bed. The devil, it's in the detail here in costs. So what I'm interested in is these 4 projects, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. The reason I'm interested in it is I want to discard the lowest one, and I want to leave the one betters out of it. And I think if I was to set a target in my cost strategy, if I was aiming for a price, I'd be aiming for somewhere between the average of 1814 and the average of those 4 projects. And that would set a nice sort of target in terms of what to use in feasibilities. The devil's in the detail. These 2 projects, really where their money has gone is into the structure. So while they're one betters, the effect on it is, yeah, there's effect on electrical, there's effect in fittings and stuff like that, but these 2 projects have got specific things going on within their structure. So just summarising that, the range is quite large, $1,500 to over $2,000 a square metre. So picking a rate within that range is a bit difficult. The average is 1815, and the average of the 4 projects I'm interested in is around about is 1770. So if I were pitching a project, I'd be looking at somewhere between 1815 and 1774. Just comparing that to what the price books show and what your valuers are working on. So when they're looking at costs, they'll be looking to price books, and they're showing a range of $1865 to just over $2,000 a square metre. So it's not really comparable. And being able to explain that is going to help things. Those rates from the price books are also excluding balconies, so you add them on top. Now, observations in the other market. So apartments greater than 10 levels. The big thing here is there's a much bigger range. 1630 is the cheapest one we've got, and the highest one is 2645. The reason for that is because there's limited choice of contractors in this space. So it really comes down to how well that design has worked and how hard the project is negotiated and how it's set up. But the average is 2166, and going through the same logic as where I went through before, I would be targeting between 2093 and 2166 as a reasonable cost for high-rise apartments. In the subdivision space, there's a big shift as well. $32,000 a lot, up to $70,000 a lot. The difference in this one is about steep sites. The higher level projects is driven by retaining walls and that style of thing. This is where value comes into it. If you're going to spend double the cost on construction, make sure you're getting the same spin up in your sales prices. So measuring value and where our money goes is extremely important in this marketplace. In terms of subdivisions, I'd be pitching 40,000 to maybe 50,000 at the top. But it's largely driven by the land itself. Well, it's always driven by the land itself. So it's the specifics here that need to be considered. Houses. This is 100 projects, all let within the last 2.5 to 3 months. So those rates there are from 1980 to 1653. The average is 1,050. Well, it's more the frequency. Of those 100 projects, there's something like 60 of them land on around about $1,050 a square metre. They're not fantastic houses, but they're houses, and they sell. They're complete, so it's including the landscaping, the fencing. So it's certainly not a Mirvac-style home, but it's what is being readily provided in the marketplace. In terms of a target range, 983, you're probably impossible to hit. I think that price was probably unique, but if somewhere between there and the 1,050, I think is doable. Townhouses have gotten tighter, far more predictable now. Last year we were looking at a much bigger range. Now it's about $1,100 to $1,500 a square metre. The average at $1,367, and pitching, I think you make somewhere between $1,250 and $1,360 as a reasonable sort of pitch. So that's what we're seeing on projects. That's the intelligence, I suppose. And just reiterate, happy to share with you the spreadsheets and the data that makes up this information that goes behind it.